In Summer 1 we're going to be covering a variety of aspects from algebra to shape, and during this video I'd like to show you some of the methods that we will be using in school to support your children at home. So one of the big units that we're going to be covering is area, perimeter and volume. So we'll be working out the area of triangles. That is where we have the length of one side multiplied by the length of the other side, and then we will be dividing that number by 2, because the idea is that if you put 2 of these triangles together you'd have the area of a rectangle, which is length times width, so that's why we divide it by 2. So for instance, for this one we would do the base times the height, which is 6 times 7, and then we divide it by 2, which is 21. The idea of perimeter is that we add all the sides together. So already across their journey up until year 6 they would have worked out the perimeters of a variety of shapes. So on this occasion 9 adds 7, which is 16, plus our 6, which gets us to 22. And the only difference between them, obviously the area is the inside of the shape and the perimeter is the length around the side, and we have 2 units of measure. For perimeter we have centimetres, and for area we have centimetres squared. The other shape that we work out the area of, so we have rectangle, which they would have done in year 5, which is length times width. We have triangle, which is length times width divided by 2. And then we have parallelograms, or as we describe them, a slanted rectangle. So it's the same principle. We use length times the height. Okay, so we have 5 times 5, so that would give us an area of 25. This one we'd have 4 times 6, which gives us 24 centimetres squared, and then on this one we'd have 7 times 3, which gets us to 21 centimetres squared. So this is the journey that the year 6s will be going on within area, so parallelograms, rectangles and triangles. And then finally we touch base on the volume, which has that next dimension. So they would have worked out the area of one side, so 15 times 7, and then for the volume, because it is the amount of liquid that we'd say would fill up the shape, because it's a 3D shape, we'd multiply it by the depth of 4, and that would give us an answer of 420 centimetres cubed. So the unit of measure now changes. So distance is centimetres, area is centimetres squared, and then cubed, centimetres cubed for volume. Another element that we're going to recap in Summer 1 that we've done previously in the year is long division and long multiplication. So I'm going to just demonstrate a method on the board which will hopefully help you support your children with their homework at home. So if we were doing 836 times 27, the first row we'd be timesing by 7, and the second row we'd be timesing by 20, which we know is 2 lots of 10. So we would have to put a placeholder 0 in this point, because obviously when we do the calculation it is not just timesing by 2, it's already been times by 10. So we do 7 times 6, which would be 42. So we have a carryover. 7 times 3, which is 21, plus the 4, which gets us to 25, and then 7 times 8, 56, plus the 2, which gets us to 58. Then, because we've already got a placeholder 10, we're now thinking about this number now is timesing by 2. So 2 times 6, which gets us to 12, 2 times 3, which gets us to 6, plus the carryover gets us to 7. 2 times 8 is 16. We've done our methods so far, and then we'd be doing our addition now. So we've done the 2 calculations, 2, 7, 15, plus our carryover gets us to 12, plus the carryover again, which gets us to 22,572. So the key element here is remembering our place value, because otherwise that second number is 10 times too small. Then we have long division. Now, all children do find it quite challenging, and all we need them to do is look at their times table knowledge. So our first element is that we do our key facts chart. So we do 2 times the number that we're dividing. So we've got 166. We do 10 times the number because we find our 10 times tables easier, which is 830. And then we'd half it to get our 5 times, which is 415. We'd then look at the number individually and we'd see how many 83s in 8 we know is 0. So now we need to look at the 80. Again, how many 83s in 80? We know again that that's 0. So we need to consider the whole number. Now I know straight away that I can't take 10 lots away. So I'm going to have a look at 9 lots. And it's okay for the children to, at the side, do some annotations. So I'm going to try and see if I can take away 9 lots. So I'm going to do it as a subtraction. 7, again I need to borrow. 12, 4. So 747 is the number that I'm going to take away, but I know it's 9 lots. So 747. And to get our next number down, we then need to do our subtraction. So again, we have to borrow. The challenge there, that we're borrowing through 2 numbers. So 8, 5, and then obviously this is 0, so I don't need to put the 0. We now need to do our 1 comes down, because our number now that we're finding how many 83s in 581. So I know that it's more than 5 times, okay? But if I have a look at these 2 numbers, there might be something there that we can work with. So I'm going to have a look at 7 times. It might not be right, but we're just investigating at the moment. So I'm going to do an addition. 8 and then 5, which is our 581. It doesn't always work, but on this occasion it has. So on this occasion we do our 581, and the aim is always to go down to 0. If it doesn't go down to 0 and it's a number less than 83, then obviously that is a remainder. If it is more than 83, obviously that's when we've made a mistake and we'd have to go back to our working out.